Part 1, The Abyss Beckons. Ronnie Bale, a seasoned freighter pilot, leaned back in his chair, one hand casually gripping the controls of the Indigo Marauder, his independent cargo vessel. His destination was the barren moon of Alros III, far from the bustling core systems, just the way he liked it. Space, the quiet expanse where nothing ever went wrong, until today. A flicker in the dashboard caught his attention, followed by a deep hum, a vibration that traveled through his ship's hull. Ronnie glanced at the engine diagnostics, power surge. His brow furrowed. A malfunction? Out here? No way. He checked the instruments again. His stomach sank as a series of system failures popped up on the screen. Damn it, he muttered, tapping furiously at the console. Something was off. Not just a simple power glitch, this was something bigger. Hey, you sure this is how you want to go out, Ronnie? He muttered to himself, hoping his usual bravado would ease the tightening knot in his chest. But the ship was losing power fast, the artificial gravity flickering, and in the distance, the swirling mass of the uncharted nebula loomed closer. The screen blinked red, warning signs flooded the interface. Ronnie yanked at the controls, but the ship didn't respond. He glanced out the viewport. He had no choice. It was either get closer to the nebula, or drift in space like a floating wreck. Before he could decide, a crackling noise came from the comms. His heart skipped. A hail? Out here? Unidentified freighter, this is Kalra. You are in grave danger. Please respond, came a voice, smooth and unmistakably, alien. Ronnie leaned closer, brow furrowed. Kalra, he repeated, incredulous. Who the hell? Respond, the voice said, with a hint of impatience. I can save you, but you must trust me. Before he could respond, the nebula's gravitational anomaly intensified, the ship shaking violently as if caught in the grip of a cosmic giant. The lights flickered, and the viewport cracked with a sudden vibration. Ronnie's stomach dropped. He had no time to argue. The ship was doomed. All right, I'm listening. Do whatever it takes, he grumbled. The next moment, a strange light bathed the ship, and he felt a sudden force pull him forward, toward the approaching vessel. The Indigo Marauder was yanked from its doomed path, drawn in by a tractor beam. Ronnie fought the controls in a futile attempt to regain control, but the pull was too strong. He glanced at the comms panel, which now showed a sleek, silver vessel, far too advanced for anything he'd seen in his years of piloting. Within moments, he was aboard the alien ship. It wasn't like anything he had ever encountered before. The walls glowed with soft, bioluminescent light. Curved surfaces, metallic and organic, seemed to shift with the subtle pulse of the ship's energy. The air was thick, rich with a faintly floral scent that made Ronnie's head spin. He stumbled from his seat, trying to steady himself, but his legs felt weak. The ship hummed with an almost sentient intelligence. And then, he heard the voice again. Welcome aboard, Ronnie Bale. He spun around, eyes wide. Standing at the far end of the room, framed by the soft glow of the ship's light, was a woman. But not just any woman. She was breathtaking. Skin a deep, luminous violet. Her dark hair was pulled into a sleek updo, and her flight suit, form-fitting, deep green with metallic accents, hugged every curve, enhancing her stunning figure. Her sharp nails gleamed, claw-like but immaculately groomed, the delicate fingers twitching slightly in his direction. Her eyes, glowing an ethereal shade of violet, locked onto him. She smiled, lips curving with an intensity that sent a ripple through him. There was something disorienting about her presence, something almost magnetic. I told you, she said, her voice both sultry and commanding, you were never meant to be alone in the void. Ronnie didn't know whether to be annoyed or intrigued. What is this? Some kind of rescue or? Both, she interrupted, stepping closer. You are in grave danger. But perhaps it's the universe's way of bringing us together. Ronnie scoffed. The universe? You sound like some fortune teller. I don't believe in that crap. She cocked her head, studying him with an unreadable expression. You will, she gestured toward the ship. This is my ship, and you are my responsibility now, Ronnie Bale. You don't have a choice. Before he could protest, the ship lurched again, as if responding to her words. The faint hum of engines intensified. He reached out for something to steady himself, only to feel her touch, unexpectedly cool and firm against his arm. Her eyes softened for a moment before she whispered, I saved you, and now, you will stay. The force of her words left him stunned for a moment. Something in her tone was final. There would be no escape. As Ronnie opened his mouth to retort, she closed the distance between them with alarming speed, her fingers brushing his wrist, sending an unexpected jolt through his chest. Don't fight it, she whispered, her lips brushing against his ear. Before he could respond, her lips were on his, warm and urgent. And for all his confidence, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of heat at the back of his neck. Ronnie woke with a start, his eyes flicking open to the unfamiliar surroundings. For a moment, he thought he was still on his own ship, until his mind caught up with him and reminded him that the Indigo Marauder was gone, yanked away by that alien ship, which now loomed around him. The walls here were smooth, organic, almost alive in their curvature. Soft lights pulsed gently overhead, and the air carried a faint scent that, strangely, reminded him of flowers. He rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off the disorientation. Part 2, The Cosmic Bond. Ronnie stood at the viewport, his hands clenched tightly as he stared into the swirling abyss of the nebula. The colors danced and shifted, a mesmerizing display of cosmic chaos. But his mind was far from at ease. Kalra's words echoed in his head, stirring something deep within him, something he wasn't ready to confront. You don't have control here, Kalra said softly, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. None of us do. The universe has its own plans, and we're just along for the ride. She stepped closer, her violet eyes reflecting the nebula's glow. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. We can choose how we respond. Ronnie turned to face her, his jaw tight. You talk about the universe like it's some kind of living thing. Like it's watching us. Guiding us. But I've been out here long enough to know that space doesn't care. It's cold, empty, and indifferent. Kalra's lips curved into a faint smile, but her eyes remained serious. You're right. Space is indifferent. But the forces that shape it, gravity, time, energy, they're not random. They're connected. And so are we. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his arm. The touch sent a shiver through him, a reminder of the strange connection they shared. Ronnie pulled away, crossing his arms over his chest. I don't know what you're trying to say, Kalra. But if you're suggesting that we're destined to be together or something, I'm not buying it. I don't believe in fate. I believe in choices. And right now, I'm choosing to figure out how to get out of this mess. Kalra's smile faded, replaced by a look of quiet determination. Then let's make a choice together. We need to stabilize the ship's core before the next wave of pirates arrives. And we need to do it quickly. Ronnie nodded, pushing his doubts aside. All right. What do you need me to do? She gestured toward a console on the far side of the room. The core's energy matrix is unstable. If we don't recalibrate it, the ship won't survive another attack. I need you to monitor the energy flow while I adjust the conduits. Ronnie moved to the console, his fingers flying over the controls. The interface was unlike anything he'd seen before, but the basic principles were familiar enough. He focused on the energy readings, watching as they fluctuated wildly. The matrix is spiking, he called out. If we don't stabilize it soon, it's going to overload. Kalra was already at work, her hands moving swiftly over a series of glowing panels. I'm rerouting the energy flow, but it's going to take a few seconds. Hold it steady. Ronnie's eyes darted between the console and Kalra, his heart racing. The ship shuddered as the energy matrix struggled to contain the surge. Kalra, we're running out of time. Almost there, she muttered, her voice tense. With a final adjustment, the energy flow stabilized, the readings on Ronnie's console returning to normal. The ship's hum grew steady, the tension in the air dissipating. Ronnie let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. We did it. Kalra turned to him, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. See? We make a good team. Ronnie couldn't help but smile back, though he quickly masked it with a shrug. Don't get too comfortable. We're not out of the woods yet. As if on cue, the ship's sensors blared an alert. Ronnie's eyes snapped to the console, his stomach dropping as he saw the incoming signals. Kalra, we've got company. 3 more ships, and they're closing fast. Kalra's expression hardened. Pirates? Worse. Mercenaries. And they're heavily armed. Kalra moved to the pilot's seat, her hands gripping the controls. Then we'll have to outmaneuver them. Strap in, Ronnie. This is going to get rough. Ronnie took his seat beside her, his heart pounding as the mercenary ships appeared on the viewport. They were sleek and deadly, their weapons primed and ready. The lead ship hailed them, a harsh voice crackling over the comms. This is Captain Draven of the Black Talon. Surrender your vessel, and we'll let you live. Resist, and we'll blow you out of the sky. Kalra's eyes narrowed as she responded, her voice cold and commanding. This is Kalra of the Ethereal Star. You're trespassing in my space. Back off, or you'll regret it. The response was a burst of laughter. You've got guts, I'll give you that. But guts won't save you. The mercenaries opened fire, their energy blasts streaking toward the Ethereal Star. Kalra yanked the controls, sending the ship into a sharp dive. The blasts missed by inches, but the ship shuddered under the strain. Hold on, Kalra shouted as she executed a series of evasive maneuvers. The mercenaries were relentless, their attacks coming in rapid succession. Ronnie gripped the console, his knuckles white as he monitored the ship's systems. Shields are at 60%, he called out. We can't take much more of this. Kalra's jaw tightened as she plotted a course through the nebula. We're not going to outrun them. We'll have to outsmart them. Ronnie's eyes widened as he realized what she was planning. You're not serious. That's suicide. Do you have a better idea? Kalra shot back, her voice sharp. Ronnie hesitated, then shook his head. No, but if this doesn't work. It will, Kalra said firmly. Trust me. Ronnie nodded, though his stomach churned with doubt. All right. Let's do this. Kalra guided the ship deeper into the nebula, the swirling gases obscuring their path. The mercenaries followed, their ships weaving through the chaos. But Kalra had a plan. She waited until the last possible moment, then activated the ship's cloaking device. The ethereal star vanished from sight, leaving the mercenaries disoriented. Now, Kalra shouted, and Ronnie fired a series of EMP pulses. The pulses disrupted the mercenary systems, sending their ships spiraling out of control. One by one, they collided with the nebula's dense gases, their ships exploding in bursts of light. Ronnie let out a triumphant laugh. We did it. They're gone. Kalra allowed herself a small smile, though her eyes remained focused. Don't celebrate just yet. We're not out of danger. As if to emphasize her point, the ship's systems flickered, the cloaking device failing. The ethereal star reappeared, its energy reserves depleted. Ronnie's heart sank as he saw the readings. We're running on fumes. If we don't find a safe port soon, we're done for. Kalra's expression was grim. There's a nearby outpost. It's not ideal, but it's our only option. Ronnie nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. All right. Let's hope they're friendly. As the ethereal star limped toward the outpost, Ronnie couldn't help but glance at Kalra. Despite everything, he felt a strange sense of trust in her. She had saved his life, and together, they had faced impossible odds. But he couldn't ignore the questions swirling in his mind. Who was she, really? And what did she want from him? Kalra seemed to sense his thoughts, her violet eyes meeting his. You're wondering why I saved you, she said softly. Why I brought you here. Part 3, The Outpost of Shadows. The ethereal star descended toward the outpost, its engine sputtering as the ship struggled to maintain altitude. The outpost was a sprawling, ramshackle structure built into the side of a jagged asteroid. Its lights flickered weakly, casting an eerie glow over the docking bay. Ronnie couldn't help but feel a sense of unease as they approached. This place was far from welcoming. This is the best we've got, Ronnie asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. Kalra didn't look at him, her focus entirely on guiding the ship into the docking bay. It's not much, but it's safe. For now. Ronnie frowned, his eyes scanning the outpost. Safe? This place looks like it's one wrong move away from collapsing into space. Kalra's lips twitched into a faint smile. You're not wrong. But it's better than being stranded in the nebula with no power and no shields. Ronnie couldn't argue with that. As the ship touched down, he unbuckled his harness and stood, his legs still shaky from the adrenaline of their escape. All right. Let's see what we're dealing with. The docking bay was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of oil and rust. A group of rough-looking individuals stood near the entrance, their eyes fixed on the ethereal star. Ronnie's hand instinctively went to his side, though he realized too late that his weapon was still on his own ship, or what was left of it. Stay close, Kalra murmured as they stepped off the ship. And let me do the talking. Ronnie nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The group of strangers approached, their leader stepping forward. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a scar running down the side of his face. His eyes were cold and calculating as he looked them over. New arrivals, he said, his voice rough. State your business. Kalra stepped forward, her posture confident and unyielding. We're here for repairs. Our ship took damage in the nebula. We'll pay for your services. The man's eyes narrowed as he studied her. Repairs, huh? You picked a bad time to show up. We've got our hands full as it is. Kalra didn't flinch. We're not asking for charity. Name your price. The man smirked, his gaze shifting to Ronnie. And who's this? Your bodyguard? Ronnie bristled, but Kalra cut in before he could respond. He's with me. And he's not your concern. The man chuckled, though there was no humor in it. Feisty. I like that. All right, we'll help you. But it's gonna cost you. Double the usual rate. Kalra's eyes flashed with anger, but she nodded. Fine. We'll pay. The man gestured for them to follow, and they were led deeper into the outpost. The corridors were narrow and poorly lit, the walls lined with pipes and wires. Ronnie couldn't help but feel a sense of claustrophobia as they walked. This place was a far cry from the open expanse of space he was used to. This place gives me the creeps, Ronnie muttered under his breath. Kalra glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Stay focused. We're not out of danger yet. They were brought to a small, dimly lit room filled with tools and spare parts. The man gestured to a workbench. Wait here. I'll send someone to assess your ship. As the man left, Ronnie turned to Kalra. You really trust these people? Kalra's lips tightened. No, but we don't have a choice. We need repairs, and this is the only place within range. Part 4, The Deal with Shadows. The figure stepped closer, their metallic teeth glinting in the dim light of the workshop. The air grew heavy, and Ronnie's instincts screamed at him to run. But there was nowhere to go. They were trapped, and the only way out was through this strange, menacing individual. You don't understand, the figure said, their voice echoing unnaturally. Your ship is more than just a vessel. It's a key. And I need it. Kalra's hand tightened on her blade, her violet eyes narrowing. The ethereal star is not for sale. Name another price. The figure tilted their head, their glowing eyes studying her. You're not in a position to negotiate. Without a new core, your ship is useless. And without your ship, you're stranded here. Forever. Ronnie's mind raced. He didn't like the sound of this. What do you mean, a key? A key to what? The figure's smile widened, sending a shiver down Ronnie's spine. To the abyss. To the secrets that lie beyond the nebula. Your ship is unique, Kalra. It's not just a machine. It's alive. And it's connected to something far greater than you can imagine. Kalra's expression didn't change, but Ronnie could see the tension in her posture. She was calculating, weighing their options. If you know so much about my ship, then you know I won't give it up easily. The figure chuckled, a sound that was both cold and unnerving. I don't expect you to. But you'll see. In time, you'll understand. And when you do, you'll come back to me. Before Kalra or Ronnie could respond, the figure stepped back into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they had appeared. The room fell silent, the only sound the faint hum of the outpost systems. Ronnie let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. What the hell was that? Kalra's eyes remained fixed on the spot where the figure had stood. A warning. And a test. Ronnie frowned. A test? For what? Kalra turned to him, her expression serious. To see how far we're willing to go. To see if we're ready for what's coming. Ronnie's unease grew. And are we? Kalra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she moved to the center of the room, her eyes scanning the strange machinery and glowing crystals. We need to find another way. There has to be someone else on this outpost who can help us. Ronnie nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled over him. All right. But we need to be careful. This place is crawling with people who don't want us here. As they left the workshop and ventured back into the labyrinthine corridors of the outpost, Ronnie couldn't help but feel like they were being watched. The shadows seemed to shift and move, and every sound made him jump. This place was a nightmare, and he wanted nothing more than to leave. Where are we going? Ronnie asked as they turned a corner. Kalra's eyes scanned the area, her hand resting on her blade. There's a trader here. Someone who deals in rare parts. If anyone has a core, it's him. Ronnie nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into another trap. As they reached a dimly lit marketplace, the air grew thick with the scent of spices and sweat. The stalls were filled with strange artifacts and glowing crystals, and the people here were even more suspicious than before. Kalra moved through the crowd with purpose, her eyes fixed on a stall at the far end of the marketplace. The trader was a small, wiry man with sharp features and a calculating gaze. He looked up as they approached, his eyes narrowing. Kalra, he said, his voice low and raspy. It's been a long time. Kalra's expression didn't change. I need a core. For the ethereal star. The trader's lips curved into a faint smile. Of course you do. And I have one. But it'll cost you. Ronnie's heart sank. How much? The trader's gaze shifted to him, his smile widening. Not credits. I want something else. Kalra's jaw tightened. What do you want? The trader leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. I want information. About the abyss. Kalra's expression hardened. I don't know anything about the abyss. The trader chuckled, a sound that sent a chill down Ronnie's spine. Don't play dumb, Kalra. You've been there. You've seen it. And I want to know what you know. Kalra's hand tightened on her blade, but she didn't draw it. I can't help you. The trader's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold determination. Then you'll never leave this place. Ronnie's heart raced as he realized the gravity of their situation. They were trapped, with no way out. And as the trader stepped closer, he couldn't help but feel like they were running out of time. Kalra, he said quietly. What do we do? Kalra's eyes met his, her expression resolute. We fight. Before Ronnie could respond, Kalra drew her blade and lunged at the trader. The man dodged with surprising speed, his movements fluid and precise. Ronnie barely had time to react as the marketplace erupted into chaos. People screamed and scattered, and the air was filled with the sound of clashing metal. Ronnie grabbed a nearby pipe and swung it at the trader, but the man dodged again, his eyes gleaming with amusement. You're out of your depth, boy, he said, his voice low and menacing. Ronnie didn't respond, his focus entirely on staying alive. He swung the pipe again, this time connecting with the trader's side. The man grunted in pain but didn't falter. Instead, he lunged at Ronnie, his movements fast and unpredictable. Kalra was locked in combat with another assailant, her blade flashing in the dim light. She moved with grace and precision, her every move calculated and deadly. But even she was struggling to keep up with the sheer number of enemies. Ronnie's heart pounded as he realized they were outnumbered. Kalra, we need to get out of here. Kalra didn't respond, her focus entirely on the fight. But as more enemies closed in, Ronnie knew they were running out of options. He grabbed a nearby crate and hurled it at the nearest assailant, buying himself a few precious seconds. Kalra, now, he shouted, his voice desperate. Kalra's eyes met his, and for a moment, he saw a flicker of doubt. But then she nodded, her expression resolute. Follow me. Ronnie didn't hesitate. He followed Kalra as she fought her way through the crowd, her blade cutting through their enemies with deadly precision. They reached the edge of the marketplace and sprinted down a narrow corridor, the sound of pursuit close behind. Where are we going? Ronnie asked, his breath coming in short gasps. Kalra didn't respond, her focus entirely on the path ahead. They turned a corner and found themselves in a dimly lit hangar. The ethereal star stood in the center, its sleek, silver hull gleaming in the faint light. How did you? Ronnie started, but Kalra cut him off.